What's up, everyone? How's everyone doing? Gonna wait just a little bit to get to help if I actually had the thing up, huh? I'm gonna wait just a smidge to get started on the deck profile and everything. Get people a chance to filter in. Let me know how I sound. Is the audio okay? Oh God, where the hell is my Chrome window on here? There it is. Boom, boom. Technology. I should probably make another scene where it's just like big pheno instead of jump scared you guys there instead of the window so that we can have our transition window just kind of hanging out chatting. I'll work on that for the next one. Oh, that reminds me, for those of you that are here early, gonna give you guys a little bit of a spoiler. So I'm gonna try streaming at the world premiere a little bit for the my pack openings and deck building and such, and maybe like a little bit of fucking around too, just so you guys can experience the world premiere experience and all the hype and everything. And here's a little quiet. How's that? Does that sound any better? I just increased my mic volume a little bit. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I'm gonna try streaming, and here is the thumbnail. I gotta figure out a way that I can open this. Oh, I know what I can do. Go. I guess I'll just do share window. That's probably the easiest way to do this. Engage ghetto mode. Uh, display capture view. Masterpiece, if I do say so myself. I didn't know how to edit my forehead to make it bigger, so I just stretched it. So if you see this thumbnail on your YouTube feed, you'll know that I'm streaming at the world premiere. I do say this might be my greatest work yet. Oh, actually, there's another one that was really good from a while ago that I never ended up making this video, but the thumbnail was just peak. Let me see if I still have it. It was a Pot of Greed one. I was gonna make a video talking about my thoughts on the book banning. Did I delete it? This is a good one. This is way better. This is super funny. Okay. Anyways, congrats on your Fang win. Who's Matt Berry? Get rid of the display chat. To Google, who is Matt Berry? I have no idea who this is. What I was going for was a JoJo's pose. Uh, this one. I think at the next AGE, I'm going to do Killer Queen. The last AGE, I never posted the picture of it, but I did this one. Uh, this is the one that I'll do for the next one. I don't know why that just became my bit for the AGEs of doing JoJo's poses. What did Philip post? Hey Yazzie. Reveals look interesting. I haven't looked extensively at any of them yet because honestly been running around doing other things. Kind of, and I'm not really not interested in playing the new heroes. Obviously, I'm kind of gravy pilled right now, so I'm not really too focused on that. I'll do some looking into all that on my car ride to Canada because Lord knows I got time to look at all that and try to figure out how to play these heroes. But um, the Goliath stuff looks pretty interesting. Okay, let's pull up their spoiler. Oh, it's a scavenger thing, so it's not like here yet. Is Gravy legit in LL? In my experience, no. He's got things that he can do in LL, but the format's like way too high power right now. There's some cute shit you can do, like Toma Fiendel with Gold Kiss Rum. Also, you can do CYB with Scoob and keep putting back the yellow CYBs. And of course, you got Cashin. Like you've got good things that you can do, but there's some broken shit in the format. I'm pretty concerned about the format for Worlds. I'm really hoping that they change their mind and add an extra BNR. I know that's probably never going to happen, but I can hope. I can dream. I don't think there's any shame in them saying, "Yeah, no, never mind. We're gonna add another thing and then schedule something." But I don't foresee that happening. Okay, so on the schedule for tonight, we're gonna be doing a deck profile of my AGE Gravy Bones first place deck list. If you want the deck list with the sideboard notes, quick plug right now. It's on the Patreon. I have full sideboard plan and guide on there. So if you want more than just the deck list, go check it out there. It's just $5 a month. It's pretty cheap, I gotta say. Thank you, Chris. So we're gonna be going over this. I'm gonna do some explaining of card choices and such. It's gonna be like kind of scripted. I've got some show notes for like what I want to talk about. So if you see me kind of just reading, that's why like I have a lot to say about this, and I don't want to like get too rambly. And then we're going to be going over some data that Philip from February actually gave to me of going over like player data for the Gravy Bones players at the previous events before the BNR, and then comparing the win rates of the Team Armory players to their win rates at previous events. So I think that's going to be a pretty interesting data dive, and then we're going to kind of talk about how that correlates to the ethos of the band and the philosophy behind it, and kind of have a discussion about that. Uh, Going to try to wrap up stream pretty quick though. This is not going to be a super long one. I have a team meeting in about 2 hours, a little less than 2 hours. So I'm gonna have to bounce before then. So we're not gonna do any gameplay or anything. We're just gonna jump right into the deck list, jump into the data. We'll do some discussion, and I'll hang out to do some chat AMA stuff afterwards. And then I gotta bounce. I gotta get ready for Montreal still. Also, I haven't packed at all. At least this time I remembered my passport. Last time I went to Montreal or whatever it was for the last Canadian thing, I got halfway there, realized I didn't have my passport, and we had to go back. Just trolling so hard. All right, let's jump into things. Let me pull up my show notes. Wrong show notes. resize this so I can still kind of see chat. And then, sorry if I repeat myself a little bit here at the beginning about the Patreon thing. I'm probably going to be clipping this and throwing this on YouTube as a individual video and editing it a little bit. So I'm probably going to repeat the Patreon thing at the beginning here. All right, let's jump into it. What's up, YouTube? Say hello, chat. This is my Gravy Bones deck that I took to the first place at the AGE East at Great Stories. The rumors of Gravy being dead were greatly exaggerated. Deck is still alive and well. I think the deck is pretty good, but we're going to be getting into that later, and I'll talk about my opinions on the deck as we move into this. If you want the full sideboard guide for the deck, though, check out my Patreon. It's just $5 a month, but the deck list, that's free. You can check that out right now. So let's jump into it. So I have never done a Gravy Bones deck profile on the channel prior to this. We've done a lot of Gravy Bones content, but none of it has been a like straight up deck profile. So I want to do some explaining of the basics for people that are coming here for the first time and haven't really engaged with Gravy Bones content on stream thus far. So we're going to explain some of the basics now. So the general ethos with the deck of what you're trying to do is you're going wide and then ending on ally attacks. You're going to outvalue your opponent this way. And then we have built the deck in such a way that we have basically enough blues that we're going to have about 2 blues in every hand and about 1 ally in every hand. It's, I believe, 16 allies, and then we have 38 blues. You're not playing all the blues in every matchup, though. I have some in the sideboard. Like, for instance, we're not playing I in every matchup. That's just like, it's in the deck because it's very good, letting you filter through extra cards with your gold and hitting what you need. The other thing that we're doing that's very powerful is we're leveraging Prismatic Leyline. This lets us kind of double down on that go wide strategy, letting us get 5 value out of this on average. We're getting the 3 value out of it by playing a blue attack, and then we're getting 2 value out of our ally swing afterwards. This does not get eaten up on 1 attack. You can theoretically get all 3 modes out of this if you are able to play a red. And we've done that before. If you saw some of my games on stream, I did do that, I believe. I think my game against Ethan, I had like the second turn of the game. It was a Prismatic plus a Conch plus a Rabble into an ally swing. Just so dirty. Just ridiculous value. They're just like things that just should not be legally allowed in the game, right? This card is insane, and it also consolidates 2 things in the deck. One, it's just a very good value card for just aggroing our opponent out, and we're trying to no blocks and just play our hand a lot of the game. The other thing that it does is it consolidates our fatigue package, because this in itself is an anti-fatigue tool. We use this to just output way more damage than decks are able to block, and we can recycle this back into the deck with Scoob by just sinking this back into our deck, getting a gold, swinging for 4 damage, and now we have this again for later, so we can theoretically cast Prismatic Leyline 5 times in a game with this list. And then the other thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to pair action points together. What do I mean by that? So we have cards like Avast Ye, Call to the Grave, getting Back Alley Break Line, Tip the Barkeep, making a Gold Kiss Rum, Mage Master Boots, and there's other ways that you could theoretically make action points in this deck in general that I don't have in the deck right now. But for instance, there's another way you can do it, like hitting a Back Alley Break Line off of a Swell or a Chart. But this is just to name a few. There's more ways that you can make action points in the deck if you chose to add other cards. But one of the things that you're trying to do is pair action points. So what that means is we find a source of go again, and then we find another source of go again. In the case of one of them, it has to be not a go again to an attack. It has to be just a way to put go again on something. So either getting an action point or giving go again to the next action that you play. And then we pair these together so we can get 2 allies in play and attack with both of them. So for example, we play an Avast Ye, we then play an ally from our graveyard, we swing with that ally, we then crack our Mage Master Boots, we play another ally that got go again from our Mage Master Boots, and we swing with that ally, we double ally, double swing. It's very powerful. Typically you're trying to not just like randomly play allies and not swing with them. That's a great way to fatigue and just kind of burn through value for no reason. So that's the other thing that we're trying to do with the deck. And that's the basics of the deck. We play a lot of blues that are just pretty reasonable rate, or honestly on rate or above rate. Swell is an insane card. Rabble's pretty unreasonable. Um, and then all of the allies, anytime that you play an ally, you're going above rate. So when we're talking about ally rate, though, we're considering the combination of the attack power that it has with the amount of damage that it's going to soak when it gets cleared, in comparison to how much it costs to both play and swing that ally once. No, we're just starting card fight. So in the case of basically every single ally, I don't even think there's any that aren't. This isn't the case for. Every single one is above rate if all you're looking at is the cost to play and swing an ally if it gets full attack value and full defense value if it gets cleared exactly. So let's say Scoop, for example, we're spending 3 resources to get 8 value. Bananas value. That's insane. And that's the case for every single ally in the deck. So we're just going above rate every single turn. The caveat with Gravy Bones is how do you get the allies into the bin to play them, and how do you play a blue or get a blue into the bin without going too far below rate? And that's where things like Swell and Rabble come in, and Chart even, where we're not sacking value by playing these cards. They are blues that play above the blue rate. Chart is just a blue. Sometimes it's upside of gold on top of that, but let's just say it's a blue. We're playing a card that's just making 3 resources. Rabble, we're getting 3 value. Swell, we're playing a 1-for-1, but then getting back a refund on the resources and getting 3 value into our pitch. All of these things go above rate. And then the rest of our blues are just like either engine pieces or action point generation. Now, let's dive into some of the ally choices of the deck. So we've got the obvious ones that are just like the best allies in the deck because of the rate and the effect that they have. We got Chum, we got Rigor Mortis, and we got Sawbones. These are just the best allies. These are just basically staples in the deck that every list plays. They're just the best allies in the deck. Then we've got a One of Oyston. This one's mostly here just for the aggro matchups as like an efficient attack that we can have that just like, okay, I had to block, I can play this. Maybe they don't want to clear it, and I can keep blocking and get multiple swings out of this. It can be a pretty reasonable card for you to Call to the Grave for as well in those scenarios. It's just a really efficient attack when you're playing against in matchups that your life total is actually relevant to the matchup. Similarly, on the opposite end of the spectrum, we've got a One of Whaler Humperdinck on the matchups that your life total is not a relevant factor in the matchup, and decks that are trying to fatigue you. This is just a 1-card answer to fatigue decks. Just you slam this at the very end of the game, you present lethal with it, they have to give you at least 3 cards, and now they can't actually kill it. So this just deterministically kills you when you hit that stage of the game. You can always play more if you feel like you need more tools for fatigue. I don't feel like I need more tools for fatigue. I'm starting to get that matchup down where I don't like need these crutches. But when you're learning the deck, you might want to put some more of those things in the deck to kind of like get you over that hump of understanding how to play against fatigue. Then we got 2 Scoobs. This is a card that I go back and forth with on the count of it. I was at 3 pre-ban because the mirror was such a big deal in the format. I didn't expect to see many gravies at my local event, so I trimmed one because I still really like the card versus fatigue. It's still pretty annoying against a lot of decks. The 4 body is actually really relevant. A lot of decks struggle to clear things with 4 health right now. You look at Syndra, it's a lot of 3s. The Mirror, a lot of 3s. Assassin, a lot of 3s. You're noticing a trend here. Decks actually have a really difficult time actually presenting 4 damage to efficiently clear this. With Florian on the uptick, that's another example. Florian's got to throw a real attack into this. Like, he can't just Reaping Blade it. So, Scoob, he's my guy. I'd say he's the GOAT, but he's not. He's a dog, and he's a good boy. So, we love Scoob. He puts back our prismatics. He's stupid good in the mirror. He helps with our gold economy, which is something that we're now struggling more with. So the gold economy with Scoob is even more important. And he's just really annoying to clear. Now, talking about cards that are annoying to clear. Cuddy. Now, this is a card that I know I got some attention for prior for adding this to the deck, because this is a pretty atypical card to see in Gravy Bones lists prior to this event. And honestly, I'm gonna keep it a buck, completely untested. I just like it was like a 2 a.m. thought where I went, wait a minute. Cuddy is perfect for how I've restructured the deck. I'm gonna get more into it later, but the cost curve of the deck has changed a little bit with the tipple ban. With the addition of Restless Bones, our cost curve is a little bit different now. Where before we were doing things like basically every turn, we'd play a tipple, we discard our guy, we've got 2 floating from pitching a blue, and now we can activate dead threads going up to 3 resources. So all of the allies that cost 3 were some of the best ones you could be playing, and that's why you saw so many people playing those. They just really fit the cost curve well. That is not necessarily always the case now. We're down to 3 tipples. We're just not always doing that. And with me playing some of these boners over here, the cost curve has now changed. What does it look like when we're playing a card like this? We're going to pitch a blue, we're going to play this, we're going to have 1 floating, and now we can dead threads go to 2 floating. So I was thinking, well, the best ally that I can have in that scenario is a Rigor Mortis. This fits that cost curve perfectly. What else fits that cost curve? And Cuddy came to mind. And then I realized what the actual value of this ally was. And this is a question that I had come up a lot in previous streams. Like, is there a reason to play Cuddy? And I finally found it. Cuddy's real strength is the modality of his ability to fit different cost curves. He both fits the cost curve of playing a 2 cost and letting you turn on dead threads, and the cost curve of playing a 1 cost and turning on dead threads, because he's both a 2 cost play swing and a 3 cost play swing. So that's why I played Cuddy. It was kind of a role filler and a glue card that fit the cost curve of what the deck was trying to do. Now, that being said, I think 3 was a bit overkill. I put 3 in because I wanted to see this card more often and kind of formulate an opinion on it. I still really like the card. In my current list, I trimmed 1 copy of it for a Whaler Humperdinck. You'll notice I'm not playing a Whaler right now in this list. And that was a concern that I had of with this cost curve, that Whaler's not going to fit the curve as well anymore. But I had a number of spots where I wish that I could have Call of the Graved for Whaler. Just like, I got a bunch of blues. I don't have any allies in the bin. I just kind of need a resource sink, and the only way I can get an ally right now is Call. That just happens a lot. Where you're like, my hand is just like a Call to the Grave, a Tipple that I'm going to put in an arsenal, a Sunken Treasure, and like a Jittery Bones. This hand doesn't actually do anything. Like, the only play we can really make here is call for an ally and play the ally. Well, what do we grab? Chum is the best thing we can grab there, but I don't always want to grab Chum. Like, maybe that's just not relevant right now. Maybe I need to push more damage. So sometimes I just need like a bigger guy. And it's kind of nice for fatigue also, where it's just like you're physically presenting more damage by swinging 7 at them. Your thing's getting cleared anyway, so who cares? So I do wish I had 1 on the list. I think that would have made my fatigue games slightly easier to navigate, just like having 1 more big idiot in the deck. So that is a change that I'm going to be making moving forward, putting that back in just as a tutor target. And that's one of the nice things about Gravy. You can play kind of toolboxy because of the calls and your ability to just like let guys sit in your graveyard for later. So I'm a big fan of the kind of singleton cards in the deck when I find a reason to add them. I would like to have more of that in the deck, but we're not quite there yet. We're kind of in the middle of blowing up the deck and rebuilding it because of the Tipple ban. So it's a little early to be thinking about like how do we get cute with the deck. I think that's all the allies. I think I mentioned everything. Boop 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 boop. Yep, that's all of the allies. Have a swig. Give you guys a chance to comment if you want. I guess I should explain this too. And while we're on talking about tutor targets, you'll see we got 1 Fiddler screen in the list. This is a pretty common thing after the Pro Tour where people include like 1 Fiddlers in the deck. We're not really trying to block with this card. The idea is that you either get rid of it with like a Blood in the Water or something and like hit it off the top and be a luck sack. You get rid of it with your hero power if you draw into it. It's just free value, it's just 3 life for no reason. or you Call to the Grave. And functionally, the Call of the Grave is becoming a red sigil at blue. One of the problems with Call of the Grave, this is a card that I saw a lot of people talking about needing to get banned before, and like, this is a problem card. I'm gonna keep it a buck. This card kind of sucks ass. Like, you need to play it because it fills so many roles in the deck, but it does almost all of those roles worse than a card that does that role as a dedicated card. Like, it is worse as an action point generator than Lead the Charge, because you are limited by the number of back alleys that you put in your deck. And then you also have to put back alley in your deck. Like back alley is objectively a shit card. Like, you're not happy when this card is added to your hand. The only reason this card exists is so you can find it with cards like Call to the Grave. You could just play Lead the Charge instead, and that consolidates 5 cards. That's just better. But the thing is, Call doesn't just do that. It fixes your hands when you don't have an ally, like I was mentioning earlier, so you can find an ally and actually have a functioning turn. But it doesn't just do that. Sometimes it can also grab you Fiddler's Green and just, whatever, I'm just going to gain 5 life. Sometimes maybe you find an extra ally to put in the bin because you're trying to set up for a big go wide turn and you're trying to set up your action points. And there's other things that you can do with it too that I'm not doing in this list, but it does a lot of things, but it does all of them worse than something that just does that one thing. If that makes sense. I think that's pretty much it that I want to talk about of just like core deck things. After that, it's things that have changed with the list because of the BNR, like Loan Shark and Riches. I don't think there's much else to talk here. And I was going to mention Gold Hat in that, so. Now, let's talk about what's changed with the deck. Obviously, there's a big BNR that really hurt the deck. We're going to get to Sea Legs in just a second, don't you worry. Tipple was limited to just the blues in the deck, so the reds and the yellows are banned. So what does that mean for the deck? Let's make a list here. So number 1, we have 6 less gold that we're generating over the course of a game. 2, we have 6 less hooks that we're activating over the course of the game. Number 3, we have 6 less discards that we're getting over the course of the game. And 4, 6 less go again attacks in the deck to, push into our opponent's mouth and reduce their life total to 0, which matters based on how we're playing the deck. We're trying to beat them before they fatigue us in most matchups. So, how do we resolve these problems? We can't just cut them and move on with life like nothing happened. We need to make some changes to the deck. So first, what I did was I added in 3 Loan Shark and a Riches of, I'm not even going to try pronouncing that. Y'all know I'm going to mess that up. We're not even going to go there. We added a Riches. I'm not rich in the ability to speak. Let's just say that. So what did this do? Adding in the Loan Sharks added back in the 6 gold that we're missing off of the 6 tipples. It also adds in 3 hook activations. Adding in the Riches gave us 1 more gold and 1 more hook activation. So now we're at 7 gold generation and 4 hook activations. I would say that's pretty close to what Tipple's able to create, because you can't even guarantee the hooks. It's not like you just always get a gold off of hook. It's just 2 less times over the course of the game that you're telling your opponent, hey, you should probably block or else I get bonus value. And I would say most of the time, except for the aggro matchups where your opponent's just never blocking, you didn't get the hook. That was just your opponent's waiting for that chain link to block. The only times you really got gold was when you paired your hook with a Conqueror of the High Seas, and you present multiple chain links for your opponent to defend to prevent an on-hit, and they still need to keep a card or 2 to be able to clear the ally that you have in play, because that's what they're trying to do in that matchup. And that's usually the spots where your opponent's trying to dedicate their armor. Now, Loan Shark, I would actually say was pretty good for me. I really liked this card. 3 is a lot. I'll say that much. How I felt about the card was the first one was typically very important to see. It got my engine going. It let me get a hook in. I don't really have to worry about my deck functioning for quite a while. We're good for a while. And usually by the time that I would see my 2nd or 3rd shark, I really didn't need it anymore. We've bought enough space that we can find our other gold generation, and the deck is working by now. So the second and third were typically not that great. They were okay, not that great. I'm not like excited to see them. I'm not excited to cast them. I'm probably looking for an opportunity to block with them, honestly. But I'll still play it if my opponent is like in fatigue mode and my life total is no longer relevant. But like I said, the first one's pretty important. You could convince me that maybe because of that you're supposed to trim it down. But because of how important the first one felt, I wanted the opportunity to see it. The way that I view a lot of gravy bones is, as I said earlier when I was talking about your go wide turns, what you're doing is just inherently better than almost everything else in the game. You're going so far above in value than anything your opponent could muster, and you're doing that almost every turn. What I want to do is make sure that I don't hit a failure state. And the way that you do that is one of two things. One, have allies already in your graveyard, because typically what a failure state looks like in the deck is either I've got a hand of like all blues or all things that like kind of don't do anything, and I don't have any allies in the grave, so my turn's pretty mopey, or I draw a hand of all allies and I don't have a way to get rid of them. Having allies in your grave solves the problem of your hand doesn't do anything and it's just like a bunch of blue do nothings. Having gold solves both problems. Gold solves all problems. Gold is the payoff, as they are one to say. So if my objective is just to prevent failure states, Loan Shark is very good at doing that. Let's be objective about this card. You're spending a full card, making 2 gold and losing 2 life when you play this card. Like, yeah, you could discard an ally to it, but you can't like count on that. That's objectively a terrible card. Like, let's be real. That's terrible. I'm not even if this didn't have the 2 life loss, I'm not that excited about spending a full card to make 2 gold. That's like pretty bad. 2 gold is not worth a full card typically. But everything else you're doing is so good, it just doesn't matter. You just need to make sure that your deck is functioning. It's an engine piece. So I really liked the card. It was pretty good for me. So again, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, we lost 6 gold activation. We lost 6 hook activation. We have now added 7 golds and 4 hooks. And theoretically, it could be more hooks. Like the riches is something that you can pitch and then see again later in the game. I want to be simple about this and just call it 1 gold, 1 hook activation of the riches, because you can't guarantee that that's going to happen in a game. Like, you might not go to second cycle. Things can happen. Let's not think about in theory with that. Just straight up, this makes a gold, this gives you a hook, right? Next, we need to solve the problem of us being down on both go again attacks and discard outlets. Lacking in discard outlets or losing a lot of discard outlets is really a big deal for the deck. Yeah, you still have your hero power, but like I said, one of the failure states of the deck is you drawing too many allies. And you need to have enough allies in the deck for it to function. You're trying to see about 1 ally every turn. You can have a few extra because you can still pitch the allies. It's not like they do nothing when you draw them, but you're really not trying to pitch them. You can, but it's just not ideal. So I added in some extra ways to get allies out of my hand, and that is the boners. So I was already, prior to this, playing 2 blue jittery bones to go with a prismatic package. Now I added in 2 blue restless and 2 red restless. This was pretty good. Something else you could also consider adding would be, I think blue would probably be the best version of this effect, but a trade-in that kind of does a similar thing. Trade-in's pretty similar to Tipple. The problem is you have to set them, but it's not the worst card to draw into mid-turn, and you're trying to set blues, so it's not like that's that big of a deal. And you do want go-again attacks in your deck, so it kind of fills multiple roles in your deck. It could be that instead. I didn't have a chance to try that, but it's something that's on my list of things to work on. The boners they did what they needed to do. They helped me get rid of the allies from my hand. Sometimes I would luck sack and hit an ally off the top. And honestly, it felt like all I needed was one of them over the course of the game to hit an ally off the top of the deck for it to be good enough. Like if my expectation is I play like let's just say 3 in a game, because you're not going to play all of them. Like we're probably playing both reds, and maybe we play 1 or 2 of the blues. If 2 of them, I have to get rid of an ally from hand because I'm down bad, and one of them hits an ally off the top, I would say that was good enough and that was worth me playing it. Try yellow restless instead. I actually had a point on that later, so we'll come back around to that. Okay. Now, someone earlier asked a question about sea legs. I think sea legs is pretty bad in this version of the deck. Realistically, the only way that we're going to be able to outlet sea legs is we're using hero power, but it's more inconsistent of us having gold. Let's be real. Port side and blue tipple. We have less ways in the deck to actually do the thing. And if we ever have sea legs and an ally in our hand, we're probably trying to get rid of the ally, not the sea legs. Now, before people were only playing, on average, 4 versions of that effect in their decks. If you want that data, that's also on the Patreon. I have a bunch of gravy data on there. So I figured, whatever. I was a 2-2 split. We'll just cut the sea legs, add another tip to barkeep, add a back alley break line because it was only on 2, and that's close enough. Like, I'm just going to call it a day with that. This card is worse now. I'm not going to try forcing it. Let's make sure the deck functions. And function it did. The tip to barkeeps were plenty good. I did not really miss the sea legs at all. And honestly, I really only liked the sea legs in the fatigue matchups, and it can still be awkward in those spots. So I think we were perfectly fine with that. The prismatics pull a lot of work in those matchups. I had a point about Cuddy here, but I talked about it earlier. Now, one thing of note that you'll see that I'm not playing here is the Royal Hat. I've seen a lot of people adding that to their deck since the ban to kind of compensate for the tipples. I don't feel like that's really necessary. Royal Hat's good. I'm not gonna say it's bad or anything like that. I played with it a while myself. The problem that I see is Royal Hat is basically at its best in the slow matchups. So the matchups you already win. Like, where do I actually want the Royal Hat? Like Florian? I'm kind of fine just playing no Rune Hood in that matchup or something. Like, whatever. I'm still beating that deck. Who cares? Guardian? I'm already beating that deck. Who cares? If anything, maybe I'd rather Providence so I can ignore a Pummel CNC. Whatever. I just don't think it's really necessary. And in the fast matchups, I think you need to be greedy to actually win those matchups because you're pretty far behind against the aggro decks. So you need to make some magic happen to win those matchups. And typically that involves you not sacking 2 health plus the effect of balance plus stopping an on hit from balance. Like you're losing so much value against the aggro decks typically by not subbing something like balance. I could see you against like maybe Fang, where it's like it's an aggro deck, but your hat doesn't really matter in that matchup too much, and maybe you just need to go fast. It's not bad. I don't see very many matchups that it's like this moves the needle in the matchup. I'm either already winning or it's not actually what I want to be doing in the matchup. That's how I view it. If you want to play Royal Hat, I'm not going to stop you. It's not bad. Now, I have a few changes that I want to make to the list. The first, I already told you, I'm going to be cutting a Cuddy for a Swabby. Pretty easy change right there. Next, I got too many boners. Way too many boners. 7, that was not it. I deeply regret my decision in playing that many. The problem that I was having was I had to pitch them a lot because I'm like, it's not good right now. I've got something else in my arsenal. I just need to pitch this. Like this does not play right now. And it was messing up my second cycle of the deck because I'd have a bunch of these boners, but no allies to go with them. And even if I'm being cognizant about it, and I'm like, okay, I got these, and I'm gonna try setting up a pitch stack, which is like, okay, now we're adding like a bunch of hoops to jump through mentally that we like just didn't need to do. Like we put ourselves into this position. Now we have to think like infinitely harder about the game to like have a functioning second cycle. But if we accept that we're a machine and we can do that with no problems, I don't want to pitch allies. Like I'm not sitting here going like, oh boy, I can't wait to put this bauble back in my deck. Like I'm not trying to do that. I want to discard all of these. I want them all in the bin. I want to play them all. If I'm pitching them, I'm down bad. I don't want to do that. So it was pretty messy. And even if you are doing that, unless you're setting it up perfectly, which is pretty difficult to do with how much, like, it's not like other fab decks where you're always changing your deck 4 cards at a time. So you can like pretty easily set up a pitch stack. The amount of cards that you're going through in a turn change a lot. Sometimes you're going through 4, sometimes you're going through 5, sometimes it's 7, sometimes, oh shit, this hand doesn't play. I had to crack a bunch of gold. It's really hard to actually know how many cards you're going through in a turn. So like setting it up perfectly where like you're going to hit the ally off the top of the deck with the boner on second cycle is kind of a meme. And you sometimes shuffle the deck. It's a pretty unreasonable expectation to go, yeah, I'm going to set that up. You could, but that's pretty unreasonable. And it's bad value. So in the future, I'm going to be playing a few less of these. I did like the red Restless. They were pretty good. Like I've had some questions on why the reds of that versus blues. Like I said, I'm not trying to have a million of these in my second cycle. So I think having some in the deck where its sole purpose is to be cast and making it a red because the sole purpose is to be cast is fine. You could convince me otherwise, but this frees up some slots in the blues for them to be other cards. Where realistically at the red, it's really not competing with that many other things. Like it could be, I guess, another swell, whatever. And then one last thing about the deck list before we go on to talking about some other gravy opinions on the decks type of things. Before you write this in the comments, you do not need the Fables. I get this question a lot. Do I need this? Is it playable without this? What should I put in the deck instead? These are not required to play the deck by any means. I think they're nice if you have them. I'm going to be honest. I don't even have an eye. I'm borrowing an eye from a friend because I refuse to spend this much money on a goddamn trading card. So, it's perfectly fine. You do not have to play these cards. And honestly, I'm considering not playing them, like, for strategic reasons, because I'm typically playing these in the matchups that are slower, and I could just play another card in those matchups that's perfectly serviceable. And they're coming out against the aggro decks. So I don't think that you need these. So if you don't own these and you need to find a substitute, what I would recommend is basically some blues that are good in the slower decks. So Flying High, Give No Quarter, Seafloor Salvage can work, Pearl or Diamond Amulet, basically anything like that. Perfectly reasonable. You do not need to buy these cards. If you don't have the money to spend on them, don't feel forced to. Same with the Royal Hat. Like you see, I'm not even playing the Royal Hat. I know that's pretty expensive right now. You don't need it. Just play one of the generic hats that you already have. Honestly, you could even play the Gravy Bones Armory deck hat, and it's like close enough. It's really not that big of a deal. Oh, what was the thought I had about the Yellow Restless? Oh, right. Now if you do end up adding some more cards to the deck, like Seafloor Salvage, I would recommend changing the build slightly because right now deck kind of struggles using that card, I don't actually want to flip over a prismatic ley line. I want to put these back in the deck. I will, but like I'm not happy about it. Yeah, loan shark, that works, but you might draw the seafloor while the loan shark's in play. So there, the loan shark doesn't go to the graveyard. So like, you don't have a legal target. I'm not trying to hit an ally. This Fable doesn't go to the graveyard. So if you were to do that, what I would recommend is changing some of the red go-agains into yellows. I don't think you lose too much value by doing that. So either the Swell or the Restless, turning either of those into yellow, I think is serviceable. I don't want to do that. I think the matchups that these matter in are aggro, and you're fighting for every point of value that you can get in those matchups. So losing a few points by playing a worse card because it's, a point worse, and then also having to cast a card that just actually does nothing, like Seafloor just makes a gold, like it doesn't matter, is not really where I want to be in those matchups. If Gravy Bones is really prevalent, then it's pretty reasonable to put that in, even if it's just a sideboard card for the mirror. But if you do think that you're going to be mainboarding it, I would recommend adding some more yellows that you can flip over. My thoughts on Fearless. I guess this is another good point to bring up here. So I ended up not playing Fearless this weekend. I think the card is perfectly reasonable. My main concern was I need to make sure that Gravy Bones functions before anything else. Because again, if the deck is functioning, I'm winning. I don't think anyone actually beats Gravy if he doesn't hit a failure state all game. If you're humming, you're doing the thing, you're conking them, you're prismaticing them, you're always playing your allies, you're not bricking at any point, you're not pissing away your gold because your hand doesn't play. The deck's amazing. So I just want to make sure the deck functioned. And that was a card that doesn't directly do anything to increase the consistency of the deck. So like in theory, the Restless Bones could have been that slot also. And in theory also, like the Eye and the Riches could be that if you wanted to play that instead. But it did not advance my strategy at all and making sure the deck works. So I didn't play it. I wanted the whole deck to be as consistent as possible. Dangle, did you miss the entire point there was you don't need Eye or Riches? Oh, and also you don't need the Crown of Dominion? Like, it was literally, like, the same thought. Did you, like, just tune into stream when I started talking about Royal Hat? Or did you, like, tune out everything else that happened before that? Like, thoughts on Erase Face and CNC? I think the disruptive attacks can be good. I don't really like them because I'm spending my action point on that instead of an ally. I think if you are going to do that, Limpet moves up in playability quite a bit in the deck. Basically, what you're doing there instead is you'll be like, play your blue, play a Limpet, swing the Limpet, swing the Command and Conquer afterwards. And that's like a pretty reasonable turn. That's something that we could potentially go back to if the meta is a bunch of aggro decks and we just like need to disrupt them, and that's like how you win the matchup. My problem with that is Limpet is so incredibly low impact in those matchups that sure you disrupted them, but like you didn't like really advance the game at all. They just block 3 cards, kill your Limpet, move on with life. You just like didn't make any damage progress and just milled a couple cards from their deck. That could be good enough if you're doing this on a small enough hand, like you block a little bit, do this, you buy their turn. Yes, I talked about Loan Shark already. If you missed everything, you can either go back later, or I'm probably going to be trimming this down a bit and editing out some of the like the fluff and putting it all up on YouTube later. If someone does go back, throw a timestamp in chat for the other people if you could. That'd be nice for everyone. But yeah, like that could be good enough. Like, okay, I'm gonna block a little bit, limp, like, I don't know, block 2 cards, go chart into limp it into CNC, and then they give you their hand, and now you get to play a 4-card hand. So you traded your 2 cards for their 4 cards, and then got to play 4 cards of your own. That could be good. But the limpet isn't even really necessary in that scenario. A friend played Gravy at Millennia Battle Hardened, and they miss having tons of gold to quickly convert full ally hands for anything playable. Has that ever happened to you? That actually happened to me at one of the games at the AGE. I played a Jarl opponent twice during the event. The first time I played him, he went first. Turn 0 put the -1 counter on my compass. I was like, of course. But then I luck-sacked and he didn't find the thing to blow up my compass for like 5-6 rounds or something like that. And then by then he'd taken enough chip damage and I'd made enough progress where it didn't matter. The second time, I had a hand. I didn't create a gold for the first like 4 or 5 rounds or something unreasonable. And I drew a hand that was just actually quad ally. So what my turn ended up being was I had a blue in my graveyard. I think it was like a rabble or something, just like some shitty card to just play to turn on my hero power. I played an ally from my graveyard. Then I went Mage Master Boots, play an ally from my hand, play another ally from my hand. And I just went, this hand sucks. Whatever. 3 allies deal with it. And he was just like, oh no, that was still pretty good. Yeah, CNC does pair with the Restless Curve pretty decently. That could also work with Sloop in theory, but kind of harder to get that one to work. Because you go pitch to gold, pitch to Sloop, play the Command and Conquer. That's pretty good. You and you still have the card that you drew off of the gold after all of that. That's pretty reasonable. Okay, so I think that's everything that I want to talk about with the deck list itself. Again, if for those just tuning in, if you want the sideboard guide and everything, that is on the Patreon. Bro, Cuddy's my guy. It's down to 2 Cuddy now. Cuddy was pretty good. Okay, so let's talk about my opinions on Gravy Bones after the BNR. I think he's still pretty good. I think Gravy Bones is a very playable deck still. I don't think this ban killed him. I was dooming on that pretty hard. I thought this ban was going to just make the deck pretty unplayable. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's perfectly functioning. I think what is going to impact Gravy more than the Tipple ban is actually the shift in the meta. We talked about this on some previous streams and on the podcast, but Slippy was gatekeeping a lot of the decks that are good against Gravy. So if Slippy goes down in play rate, and even if it doesn't, like if the Slippy losing bonds improves the matchups of some of the decks that it was gatekeeping, that could be enough. But my point being, that meta shift could lead to more of the decks that are good against Gravy being more common to play against. So that meta shift could be bad for Gravy. Now, that's not currently what we're seeing from the Battle Hardens. If you look at the results that we've had over the past like weekend, Florian did really well. Florian kind of took Slippy's place in the meta, it seems like. And if that happens, well, Florian's actually a better matchup for Gravy than Slippy was. I'm a little confused by this development. I do not perceive Florian to actually be that good of a deck or even that good of a meta pick. So we'll have to see if this continues. I'm not expecting it to, but if it does, say less, brother. I'll keep playing Gravy. One negative thing about that though is when Syndra got the new dagger, the one with Spell Void, that kind of flipped the Florian matchup. So if Syndra is still good into Florian, and it's also good into Gravy, then that means Syndra might be more popular, which is pretty bad for me on Gravy. So we're gonna have to see how the meta settles, but long and short is I think the meta shift is going to be the more impactful part to Gravy Bones than losing Tipple. It sucks losing Tipple, but the deck still functions. The deck's still very powerful. And there's still way more innovation to be made with the deck. Like this is me throwing shit at the wall after one weekend of just thinking about the deck. Like I'm sure this is going to develop more over time. I'm going to have more ideas. I'm going to refine this. I'm going to tune it. And honestly, I'm probably going to blow up the deck and start from scratch at some point in the next couple of weeks and just like try to look at it with fresh eyes because I haven't looked at the deck without thinking about Tipple. So maybe there's a new way to consider how you build the deck. So there's a lot of work to be done with Gravy. But that being said, that's my AGE deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you got value out of that, please subscribe to the channel and check out the Patreon. And say goodbye, YouTube. Alrighty. Catch up with chat a bit. Will Moray ever be playable? Is that the +1 counter one? I want it to be playable. I want to play Shimmers again. Yeah, it seems I could see the heroes from Super Slam being good for Gravy. I'm a little concerned about Lyeth and his ability to disrupt us with Intimidate, but hopefully that's something that you just like learn how to play around. But like intimidating like an ally out of your hand is like pretty bad. I did consider red Jittery. So the reason that I didn't go red Jittery is because we have less access to gold. I physically want the resource dump. The two in the corner I actually view as upside. I would rather convert 2 resources into 2 damage than just float the 2 resources playing the Jittery. Because like how do I outlet all the extra resources from these blues? Because we're gonna have a lot of hands that we just have a ton of resources just by the nature of how the deck is constructed. What you would do before is just go, oh, I have extra resources. I guess I'll just draw off of gold because I have so much. But that's less the case now. That being said, I did end up still getting a stupid amount of gold in most of my games. Like once I got online, my gold stack at the end of the game was still as big as it was in the past because of the loan sharks just like making a stupid amount of gold. Like I get my opponent into the like them having to block for the rest of the game, and then I just like make a pile of gold out of nowhere. Thanks, Beowulf. Ugh, glad you got value out of it. Any other questions or comments on the deck before we move on to the next thing? Mace Maester? I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. Just go back and watch me at the beginning of the video talk about Cuddy. Just like go back and watch that later. Okay, all the people asking about Cuddy, just like watch the earlier stuff of me talking about it. The short version is it fit the cost curve of the deck. It being a 2 cost like Rigor Mortis fit the cost curve better with Restless. And it having a 4 in the corner is relevant for a lot of the decks. If you want a more in-depth explanation, I explained that all earlier. There's a VOD on Ethan's channel. He just like randomly showed up to this and recorded a bunch of the games. So there's a VOD on his channel if you want to go watch some of the games. If you just wanted to watch my games, specifically, the only ones that I was on camera for was the top 4 and the finals. Do I think the Necro English? Do I think Necro as a class will be like Illusionist, as in each hero is super different? I get the feeling they're all going to have the same identity of summoning an army of guys. But there's always a chance that they go different directions with it. Like if you look at Diablo and PoE, the way that they take Necromancer is in different directions. Like you've got the Necromancer that's like a minion guy. You've got the Necromancer that's doing blood magic, and you got the Necromancer that's doing like bone magic or other types of things. So there's other directions that they could in theory take it if they're trying to copy that style of Necromancer. Which is typically what I think of when I think of Necromancers in video games. But I'm expecting them to kind of stay with the minion style class. What I expect them to change, though, is how they work. Like, we're probably not going to see them be watery grave allies again after this. It's probably going to be some other way of summoning them. You're thinking small with Shadow Necro. You're thinking so small. Shadow Mech Romancer. You boost your allies into banish and then play them. They all have watery debt. Now that's a broken class. All right. I got a little bit before my team meeting starts. I got to bounce around 9. So we're going to jump into second thing that I want to talk about today, which is some data. Woo! We love data on this stream. I heckin' love data. I'm probably not going to clip this and put it on YouTube, but if you guys think that I should, let me know. Also, while we're mid segue, if any of you guys are going to the world premiere in Montreal, I'm also going. Feel free to come up and say hi. Don't be a stranger. I don't bite much. I will ask for your undying soul to join the crew if you want my signature or anything. There is a blood debt to be paid. IRL did it all. That's for true. Okay. So, first, I'm going to preface this. I'm not arguing for Tipple's unban. I'm not crying about the ban. Clearly, I'm doing okay after the ban. I just won an AGE. I'm not like out there in the streets rattling my cup, being like, a gold, sir? I'm good. This conversation will be about what the data says and a broader discussion on the philosophy behind the ban. Because to me, it doesn't feel like it aligns with the outline principles for the BNR. So, what are we looking at here? Let me make this bigger. I like change the size of this so it's a little easier for you guys to see, because it's like getting cut off a little bit. Good enough. Okay, so what are we looking at here? This spreadsheet provided to me by Philip from Fabry. We were just kind of talking about the data over Discord for like a couple days, and he sent this to me, being like, "Hey, like this is some pretty interesting data." And I asked if he minded if I talked about it on stream, and he was like, "Go for it, man." Because we both thought this was just like a really interesting discussion point of comparing how Gravy's win rate looks across different things and how you compare things to each other. So what this is we have the win rate of the Gravy Bones players at the Pro Tour, just like all of them. The Gravy Bones win rate for just the Team Armory players. And then what the win rate is for the Team Armory players at all other events that they were not playing Gravy Bones. So, like, for example, what is Bartosh's play rate across the history of him playing Fab? So there's a couple of interesting things that we can look at here. So Team Armory had a 70% win rate at the Pro Tour with Gravy Bones. That's insane, until you realize that they usually have about that kind of win rate. Where is it? Time Gravy Bones. Here it is. This is a really interesting one right here. So they had a 71% win rate on Gravy Bones. But all other heroes, they had a 69% win rate. So it's a 2% difference between them playing Gravy Bones and playing a different hero. And let's be honest, 2% really isn't like that meaningful. This sample size really isn't that big enough that you could even extrapolate much from a 2% difference. But it does say they just always have a very good win rate, which is unsurprising. These are the best players in the world. Team Armory, that team was broken. That was the best of the best. So one interesting thing about this is if you look at the ban, it's like we're banning this because the deck is doing too good. But the data doesn't reflect that. It reflects that the Team Armory people were doing really good with the deck, but they always do good. So it's like, well, if the best players in the world always do good on the deck that they're good at or that they're playing, does that necessitate that you always ban something based on their performance? That'd be kind of silly. And that's partly what it looks like the ban is reflecting. But it's not. It's just like how it looks. When you compare it to all other players, though, everyone else at the event had a 48% win rate. And at all events of the history of Gravy Bones prior to the ban, it was a 49% win rate. And then I think he added this one in after. 46% win rate. None of that's very impressive. This is, like they said in the BNR, entirely pedestrian win rate. This is not the pedigree of a deck that demands bans. Across the board, the Team Armory players were significantly playing better with the deck than the average player. But that should be expected. So I think this goes into kind of a broader discussion, though, of this section right here. When I was talking about my opinions on the BNR, I meant to circle back around to this. If you missed out on that, it was one of my previous streams. And I think I forgot to circle back around to this and talk about it. Yeah, that does kind of go in line with like how I felt about the ban list. It felt like some of this was a optics ban. This whole BNR felt like what is social media saying? I'm still maintaining the headcanon that it was originally Mantle on the ban list until the podcast where Noah was saying Bonds was actually the card to hit. That's my headcanon, and you can't change it. So let's break this down, though. A deck running afoul of design principles. I feel like Gravy is in line with previous design, like Dromai for board state and MST for blue cards matters. So I do not perceive Gravy to being outside of the parameters of what they have for their design principles. There's probably an article somewhere where they like outline their design principles more clearly, but just looking at past track record of like how they design stuff, Gravy seems to fit that. You could argue that playing cards in the grave is outside of their normal design principles and point at shadow heroes for breaking that design. But in reality, that was really just chain. Like the other shadow heroes kind of suck ass. They haven't really done shit. There's like a few tops here and there, but like let's be honest. Let's really be honest. They suck. Like they're too inconsistent. They're very fragile. When shit falls apart, they just lose the game instantly. We all know chain was broken. It's not that playing things from the graveyard is broken, is that dredge is broken. And like who knew that dredge was broken? I could not have foreseen this. Next is a deck performing in a statistically anomalous fashion, and I cannot pronounce that word for the life of me. Well, I mean, the data proves otherwise. Like, do we need to say more? This clearly proves that this is not the reason for the ban, right? It is not actually that good if you just look at the win percentage of the deck. It's a good deck, does some very powerful things, but the failure states and the bad matchups really check the deck significantly. Should the difficulty of the deck be a real balancing factor of a deck that you consider? I'm not sure. I think that's a really interesting discussion that I don't want to have right now. And we can revisit that at a later date. Because I legitimately think that's pretty interesting. I've never seen that really be a discussion in previous games. But statistically, the deck is shit. It's not that good. A deck providing a unfair or difficult to engage with play experience. You could for sure argue this, but that's really subjective. And let me move my show notes over here. Yeah, that's really subjective. And this ban does nothing to change this. You could have an argument that like board state decks aren't fun, which fair, caught, unfun to play against, caught. But they're clearly okay with them existing. This is not the first board state deck that we've gotten. This is not going to be the last. So I don't think that they are too concerned with board state decks being unfun to play against. They don't care. They're going to keep making them. A card restricting current and future design space. No one can really speak to this. We don't know what the future holds in store. We don't know what they're cooking, and we can only speculate. But in theory, let's just kind of spitball some ideas. Tipple could limit their ability to make gold payoffs or discard payoffs. I don't really think Tipple is breaking the game, though, by being able to do this. Like, we still have plenty of ways to discard cards. We still have gold generation, and it is locked behind a specific class. I believe they did mention in this article, though, that it like slightly limits their design space with Gravy Bones because of any card like Tipple that they make for the other heroes is just going to be a buff for Gravy. I'm like grossly paraphrasing that. I think it was like somewhere over here. But you could just make that effect class. Like, you could make it pirate mech. Like, but that doesn't really have a whole lot to do with Tipple. And we still have plenty of gold generation. Like, we have Loan Shark. If having the glut of gold was the thing they were concerned with, Loan Shark still exists. Yeah. Rip Marlin. I actually really want to play Marlin. Like I bought all of the Ranger stuff to play her before she came out. And then the deck was just unplayable. I was in shambles before she came out. Because I was really looking forward to playing some sort of fun Ranger deck that's drawing a bunch of cards. Oh, you have a fun list? Yeah, sure, send it to me. Post it in the Discord or something and tag me. I was working a little bit on a list, but it just like wasn't good enough. I was doing some like crackhead combo shit with Perch Grapplers and Death Dealer, Try Shot, and Rain Razors, and like making a stack of gold and then just like keep going. It was pretty sick. But obviously that's not very good. And we can't even do that anymore because Death Dealer's gone. Yeah, I'm not like actually a Ranger enjoyer. I don't talk about it much on the channel, but I played Lexi and I played Azalea when they were both good. I actually like really want to mess around with a specific type of Lexi and LL. Like the deck isn't good. It's just really fun and activates the happy brain chemicals in my monkey brain. Death Dealer Lexi with snapshots. You activate Death Dealer as an instant, which gets you back your action point. Oh, it's so cool. Okay, next point. Oh god, where's my cursor? To freshen up a metagame. You could argue this as well. But I would say the meta was pretty good. And like we talked about in a previous couple streams, most of the legal heroes in the game were actually viable decks to play in this meta. So I think it's pretty hard to argue that when there was like over 10 reasonable decks that you could play, that the deck needed, the meta needed freshening up. Like, you know, Gravy, Slippy, Syndra, Mario, Acilio, Verdance, Fang. Oh god, what else was there? There's more. Kasai, Victor, Prism. I'm out of fingers. I'm gonna stop naming things. There were so many viable heroes in the meta. Whether or not they were the best pick for the meta, you know, I think it was pretty clear Gravy was the best deck that you could be playing. Dio, thank you. Dory, I think if you're just there to beat the Gravies. I don't think Dory was great outside of that matchup in the meta. But anyways, to make a long point short, did the meta actually need freshening up? Like, if we ignore people complaining on the YouTube live stream anytime a Gravy's on stream, I don't feel like that many people were actually complaining about the meta. Like, oh, another Gravy game. But like, if you look at any stream ever for Fab, that happens every time there's a best deck. Oh man, another Lexi game. There's any time there's a top deck on stream, people are like, oh, another. And like, if you notice, the matches that they choose on stream typically avoid the best decks because they know people are going to bitch no matter what. So like, it gives them a chance to watch, not just let's just watch the same 3 matches over and over again. Like, I know for a fact that there have not been that many Gravy games because for the past like what 2 months, half of the streams have just been let's go watch the Gravy games from stream. And there'll be like 1 or 2 games from all of Swiss that are Gravy. Even though Gravy was in a lot of stream games, his opponents were diverse and it was exciting to see different folks play into him. Yeah, I agree. But like, it was diverse because there's a lot of viable decks in the meta. Did the meta need freshening up? Yeah, people always complain. that was one of the complaints I had about this like BNR cycle, where it's like if something happens, this just feels like it's based on player sentiment and nothing else. I had one more bullet point to get to here, but like kind of while I'm already on this thought, the only other time I have seen an a player feedback optics ban, not even a ban, but like devs taking feedback from the players and making that adjustment largely for optics, was in Magic during the Kaladesh Battle for Zendikar era of Magic during Standard. Did anyone play Standard during that era? Can I get some hands? Anyone play during that? I remember hearing something about they were going to stop printing like Mana Leaks and Doom Blades into the format because it's unfun to play against them. Just the sentiment was it's unfun to play against these interactive cards. So they listened. Okay, we hear you. We're going to stop printing efficient removal. And lo and behold, what did we have? One of the most broken eras of Standard ever. We had Ramanap Red. We had that energy deck that was just cheating in Ulamog. Like, it's almost like we needed this interaction to stop broken shit from happening. And whenever I see stuff like this, I think of that, which then reminds me of another Magic thing of players are really good. What was it, Mark Rosewater that said this? I think players are really good at identifying when there's a problem, but they're very bad at identifying the solution. Paraphrasing, probably. Okay, maybe gravy is a problem, but them being like ban, I don't think was necessarily the solution. But just straight up listening to Twitter and making a change based off of that feels like not the direction to take. Aetherworks Marvel, yeah, thank you. Oh yeah, I forgot about the vehicles deck. What was it? It was like the Gideon vehicle deck, right? It was like red white, I think. Yeah, I'm okay. That's actually a really good point. DeLeon, Jim Davis also said that card players are lazy when it comes to finding a solution to a format too. Mardu vehicles, thank you. This could be a product of a combination of these two things intersecting. Of both the players are bad at like finding a solution, and that whole thing I just said, and this. Because if you look back at the CYB kind of rhetoric from LSS, they seem to not think it was a problem. And even when it got banned, it felt like a fine, we're gonna ban it type of thing. Like, ugh, we guys gave you all the time in the world to find an answer. There's clearly the answer right there. Okay, whatever. We're just gonna ban it. You guys keep bitching about it and won't find the solution. I guess we're wrong. Kind of felt like what that ban was. That felt like the same mentality of that Jim Davis comment of players were lazy to find the solution. The difference being that CYB was actually a problem. That wasn't a player laziness problem. That card was a problem. And I don't think it was obvious to them that it was a problem until they saw the finals stream of that Pro Tour. I think it was Pro Tour. It was Worlds. No, it was Worlds, right? Yeah, it was Worlds. Where that was just like a miserable viewership experience, and they're like, we can't let this ever happen again on stream. This was so bad for viewing. I wouldn't be surprised if that didn't happen, that they just wouldn't have banned it. Yeah, I agree with this, well, man. We've beaten that dead horse enough that I'm trying to not like super go back down that rabbit hole. I'm more interested in talking about the philosophy of the bans, not the, well, in an alternate timeline we should be doing this, right? Like we're here. Let's move on with life. I'm not mourning this. I think it's a very interesting conversation though, talking about the why we're doing these things though. Okay, on to the last bullet point. An attempt to slightly modify balance, adding a space for more heroes and classes to succeed. I think you could argue that this one is the actual reason for doing this, just kind of turning that knob slightly on Gravy. Though, this ban does nothing for the decks that can't beat Gravy. If you couldn't beat Gravy before, Gravy losing Tipple did not move the needle really in that matchup. You still can't beat Gravy. It's just that simple. Like, what he does is just so good against the decks that are bad against those type of decks that you could just like ban like all of the good cards. You could ban Conk, you could ban Chum, you could ban Chart, you could ban Whaler. Gravy would still have. No, you're good, Pseudo. Gravy would still be able to beat those slow decks, even without all those tools. He'd find a way. He just has so many tools to beat those decks that it's just unplayable. Now, I think the knob that this does actually potentially turn is it potentially makes it harder for Gravy to overcome his bad matchups. But the data for those matchups was showing that Gravy was behind in the matchups that he's supposed to be behind against. He just had a game plan that could beat them. He could win. So is the knob that we're trying to turn there to turn it into a polarizing matchup where if you face a slow deck, you always win, you face an aggro deck, you always lose? I don't really think that's the knob that we should be turning on decks. That I don't think we really added space for classes to succeed here. I feel like that could be the intent, and like that's the bullet point that they're going with on this whole thing. But I don't think it actually accomplished that goal. The data shows that the deck was not a problem. 48% is not a problem deck. So, my entire point is what is the underlying principle behind why it was nerfed, other than player sentiment that it was too strong of a deck? That's all I want to know. I think this is a pretty interesting type of thing to think about. And I hope that they are more clear in the future and we get a dev talk. I'm still waiting on the dev talk talking about the future of competitive play that they said that they're going to do. I can't believe they said it was going to be in October. What a ridiculously long wait to have for that, but whatever. Because I am a little concerned if moving forward that this is the way that we're trying to balance the game. People complain enough, we're just going to ban. And the combination of that and the lack of changes for LL, I'm going to beat this dead horse, does not inspire confidence in me, which is unfortunate. I don't want to feel this way. One of the reasons that I got into Fab originally back during like that Monarch era was their willingness to right the ship when something goes wrong. Which, you know, like this article does bleed some of that, and the last one too, of hey, we hear you, we're receiving feedback, we're going to adjust what we're doing. And I like that. I like the candidness. I like the willing to adjust what they're doing. But the other thing that got me in was my faith in them. but things like this kind of they between this, the scheduling of the next BNR, the lack of changes in LL would just scream who no one's testing this format, because if you had people testing the format, you would know the format needs changes. Like, it would be obvious that the format is not ready for the World Championships. Things like that just scream a lack of, like, polish is the wrong word, but I think you understand what I'm trying to get at, of like, it shakes my foundational trust in the company, and I don't like that. Shit. Good thing I had the cover on. That would have fucking stained my carpet. I mean, I don't think it's stuck in a volatile state. You just need to, like, not do this. Not do this. Hey, Cody, what leaks? The leak that the format's broken? Oh. Don't worry, Cody. I didn't forget about the team meeting. I still got 30 minutes, right? Ish. 9:15. Every band list seems to have a different theme of what they want to address. Yeah. Wonder if LSS is going to copy what Bandai is doing with band cards for specific heroes. Doesn't seem like they're interested in doing that. I believe they directly mentioned that in this article, saying, no, we're not doing that. I think that they really don't want to turn that knob. They will do it if there's a good reason to, but I don't think they want to do it. But that's all I got to say about that. I'm going to hang out with you guys for a few more minutes, do some AMA before I got to join my team meeting. Oh, here's the deck list. I assume you don't mind me sharing it since you just posted it just in my public Discord. Burdens. Why are we playing Burdens? Eh. Yeah, I'm having a good week. I mean, had fun playing Gravy at the AGE, so yeah, of course I'm having a good time, and I'm really looking forward to the world premiere. Those are always a blast. Do I have any advice for not taking things personally at competitive events? I find myself getting very stressed when I have to call out an opponent for shady stuff, even when it's not their intention. I don't know if I have any, like, advice when it comes to this, because, like, I just don't give a shit. Like, I could just couldn't possibly care. Like, in the way of, like, I don't care if I'm gonna hurt their feelings by calling judge, and, like, I also am not, like, gonna get stressed out over this. Like, this doesn't have any sort of meaningful impact on my life. Honestly, if you're getting stressed out about things while playing the game, I think that probably speaks more to, it speaks less to that specific interaction and more about your general mindset while playing the game, potentially. I know a number of people that are like this, where they have some amount of self-value and self-worth attached to the game. So winning or losing has an actual tangible mental impact on them. Now, if you feel like that's not the case for you, then never mind. But I guess the getting stressed out could also just be like, it's a social interaction thing and like you don't want to engage with that. Of like, I don't want to have to be put in the spot to have to do this. And you're kind of making me the butthole for having to do this, but like it's you, not me. Which is fair. No one wants to be the Karen in that situation. But you're really not. Like, your opponent is not engaging in the game in good faith with you. So you're not the asshole here. I think part of it also is I'm like stupid desensitized to calling judge. I think I call judge like 7 times every event, and more than half of them are on myself. Or like half of my judge calls are my opponent doesn't understand interaction or something. Like there's some moment in the game where I have to explain how the game works to my opponent. And I don't mean this in like a derogatory way or anything. Just like I'm having to explain something to them. Like fucking I play illusionist. Like I play really complicated decks and I'm trying to explain that they don't understand something that's going on and let me be really, really fucking clear about how this works. I fully explain it. And then I end it with, but please don't actually take my word. Please call the judge. You should not just take your opponent's word as law on things and just say, okay, I believe you. Don't let me mansplain it. Call a judge. Make sure that's correct. Because the last thing I would want is for me to tell you something that's wrong, and you find out later that I was wrong about that, and you think I'm a cheater or something afterwards. So please, go get a judge. Make sure I'm correct. I don't want any funny business to be afoot here, right? Also, this is like super off center. Whatever. Hey, Josh, you're just in time for me to end stream. We're ending in the next like 5 minutes because I got a team meeting to get to. Favorite style of French fry? Probably shoestring. Can I talk about sometime what steps or what it takes for the average player to get to the level of armory players? Are I'm going to assume you mean team armory players, not I get my gem pack weekly armory players. You still get your participation stamp. God, I hate the name of their team. I'm gonna be honest. It's so confusing. I don't really have a good answer for that question because there's too much to that question and it needs more like where is said player coming from, what level they're already at, right? If I'm trying to take an armory player and take them to become a team armory player, like that's a bit of a chasm that we got to cross, right? So it's how much are we leaping there, right? I'm gonna go with a cop out answer because I only have a few minutes left to stream. I think having a good mental game is better than one of the best things that you can work on. Like not getting emotional, not being results oriented, not having ego when it comes to the game, like not assuming you're correct and other people are wrong, not getting too tied to an idea, being able to think outside of the box and kind of blow up your preconceived notions and start from scratch just so you can try to come up with a new idea. Kind of like what we're going to be doing with Gravy at some point. Like I'm going to blow up the deck at some point and start from scratch. I'm not going to be married to the ideas of the previous list. And your ability to learn, I think, is another really big deal, which kind of ties into the other things, like not having an ego and assuming that you're always correct. Like what worked for me was all of that in combination with trying to surround myself with people that were better than me and asking a lot of questions and then trying to ask the right questions, if that makes sense. Questions that are going to give me insight into how they're thinking about the game and then reverse engineer it. That's a good point. Here's the deck. And again, if you missed me plugging it like 6 times already, the sideboard guide for this is on the Patreon. I do not have any opinions on the new Guardian card. Sorry. Not a Guardian player. Asking the wrong person. Doesn't say illusionist or necromancer. I don't care. I guess or a ranger. I would have cared for a ranger also. Okay, I think that wraps things up though. Unless you guys have any last minute questions you want to get in before I end stream. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you missed the deck profile, just go back earlier in the stream. I'm probably going to be trimming it and uploading it as a standalone video and kind of cutting out the fluff, but that's probably not going to be for like half a week or so. So stay tuned for that if you want to wait for that version of the deck. If you got value out of this content or you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel. Check out the Patreon. It's $5 a month. And I appreciate you guys so much for watching. Hopes on what the next Ranger does. It says Elemental on the bottom. And creates embodiments of lightning. I just want to play Lexi again. The thing with Ranger is you kind of have to push their hero power and weapon for them to be good. Because otherwise they're too fatigable. And they don't really have good armor for like blocking. Okay. Have a great rest of your night. If you're going to Montreal, come say hi. And thank you. Have a great rest of your night.